So almost every day I get asked, where do you find your books? Well, one place that I find books is at book fairs. Over the past 6 weeks, I have literally traveled the world tracking down rare books. I've been to 3 book fairs, one in the UK, one in Tokyo, and one in San Francisco. And in front of me, I have 2 items from each of those book fairs. I never know what I'm going to find, and it's always a surprise, but I think you will find it very interesting to see what I found at each of those book fairs. So I'm going to start with the Tokyo Book Fair because I just got back. I'm still jet lagged, in fact, from the Tokyo Book Fair. And you also find things at the Tokyo Book Fair that you just don't find at other book fairs, like an original issue of One Piece. Do you know that over 600 million copies have been printed of One Piece? That's more than Superman, that's more than any other book printed in the history of the world other than the Bible and the Quran. One Piece. And this is super rare, and I was really psyched to be able to find a copy in Tokyo. So that's the first item. Now, I just don't collect books. I was walking along, and in a booth, I found a Japanese woodblock printing of Spider-Man by Marvel. This is a limited edition. They only did, I think, a few hundred of these. But come on, you can't go wrong with Spider-Man. You have the Japanese text here, and it's a woodblock printing. That's just really rare. Couldn't pass it up. So those are the 2 items I got from the Tokyo Fair. I got several more items, but these are 2. So I never know what I'm going to find at a given fair. I have an idea. You generally see certain types of books appear at fairs, but there is always a surprise when you go to a book fair. When I went to the San Francisco Book Fair, I got there, it was really crowded to start out because everybody wants, it's literally like an Easter egg hunt, and there's maybe 12 golden eggs, and they disappear quickly, and you want to just fly through these booths. I mean, there's over 100 booths. Each one of them has a really nice book, but you're competing against hundreds and hundreds of other people that are going around looking. And so I got to the book fair in San Francisco, and it was on 2 levels. I quickly went up to the 2nd floor, went to the first booth, and I said, okay, this booth has some really cool stuff. And I started looking, and then boom, I saw this book right here. Now, you know I like Bibles. And when I saw this Bible, I said, I didn't know if I would ever see a Bible like this in my lifetime. It is that rare. There are no more than a dozen in private hands. I think the number's closer to 6 to 8. What is it? It is known as the Aitken Bible, printed in 1782. It is the first Bible printed in America in English. Not only that, it is the only Bible ever authorized by the U.S. Congress. So you go right here. In fact, George Washington wanted everybody to have one of these, and it was toward the end of the Revolutionary War where they began printing these. 1782, here it is. But if you go over to the next page, it says, it gives a full page and the wording authorizing the printing by the Congress of the United States. That is just cool. I always get requests. People love to see the first book. It's the Bible of the American Revolution, the first English Bible printed in America. And I think some people are surprised that it's just that small. Super rare. In 40 years, I've only ever had 1 copy, and it was defective. But this one is original binding, original title page, an absolute treasure. Now you might ask yourself, how did I know that this was that rare? First of all, you have to be a specialist in Bibles and know the history, the printing history of Bibles to know it is that rare. The booth I went to, they normally don't sell Bibles. They tend to sell more occult philosophy type items. So I was kind of shocked to see they had a whole section of Bibles, including a 1st edition King James. So I walk over and I start looking, and I see this little guy right here, and I see that it is an Aitken Bible. And I know from studying the Bibles that that is an extremely rare Bible from the American Revolution, very rare. I literally did not think I would see another copy in my life in the wild. There it was. And so really, it just came from 40 years of studying books and just being out there to know that that was something I could not pass up. And the other thing is, money is a factor. And so I don't have unlimited funds. I have to be very selective. I go to every book fair with a budget, so that factors in. But the fact that I had this book in the back of my mind, I knew that if I ever found one, I was going to do whatever it took. Even if it meant putting it on 5 credit cards, I was going to buy a copy of this. So I was really happy to start the San Francisco Book Fair finding this book. So the pressure was off at the San Francisco Book Fair, so I was just having fun, and I walked around, and I am always a sucker when I see a first edition Winnie-the-Pooh, and that's what this is. It's a first edition Winnie-the-Pooh with the original dust jacket. First of all, I love the backstory. Do you know there is a backstory to Winnie-the-Pooh? It goes back to World War I, where some soldiers were making their way to the front in Canada, and one of the soldiers picked up a bear, bought a bear on one of the stops and took it with him all the way over to the UK. But they're not going to let a soldier take a bear to the front, and so he left it at the London Zoo. And when they asked him what's the name of the bear, he said, well, found the bear at a train stop in Winnipeg, so we call him Winnipeg, Winnipeg Winnie. And so that was the name of the bear. And who lived near the zoo? A guy named A.A. Milne, who had a son named Christopher Robin. You start to see where this is going. So I love the backstory, love the book, and the book is 100 years old exactly this year. It's 2026. This was 1926. The centennial of Winnie-the-Pooh, original dust jacket, and this copy is signed by A.A. Milne. I said, okay, I always love to find classics that are signed, and the fact that it was the centennial of this book, I made that one of my golden egg picks at the San Francisco Book Fair. So whenever I go to a book fair in the UK, I'm always looking for the classics. J.R.R. Tolkien, Dickens, Jane Austen, just to name a few. And I never get disappointed when I go to those book fairs. And I found a first edition set of Jane Austen's Emma. Now, this is the last book printed during her lifetime. The first book printed by Jane Austen was Sense and Sensibility in 1811. Emma came out in 1816, and she would pass away in 1817. Now, none of the books showed Jane Austen as the author. The first book, Sense and Sensibility, shows that it was by a lady. Then 2 years later, in 1813, Pride and Prejudice is printed, and it's now by the author of Sense and Sensibility. And then the next year, Mansfield Park comes out, and it's by the author of Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility. 2 years later, Emma comes out, and by then, Pride and Prejudice has blown up. And so it says that on the title page that Emma, in 3 volumes, is by the author of Pride and Prejudice. And so right there you can see in this first edition set. And like I mentioned, this is the last book printed during the lifetime of Jane Austen. So I was very happy to acquire that set. You'll notice it's in multiple volumes. That is a way to increase the amount of the purchase price of a book. They make more money, and so you'll notice the print is quite large. Later editions will be a single volume, but in the early days, you'll see many, many books in the 19th century printed in 3 volumes, including this next set of books right here, which happens to be a first English edition of Victor Hugo's Les Misérables, one of the most important and iconic novels of the 19th century. Printed in 1862 in French, published, translated the same year, 1862. And this is the authorized edition. Victor Hugo authorized the English translation. There was a pirate edition that came out that year, but the translation wasn't nearly as good. But you start looking at these books that I acquired at book fairs, and you start to see that they cover a wide variety of subjects and events. I mean, from manga and anime to Victor Hugo, and Winnie-the-Pooh and Bibles and Spider-Man, you can see I never know what I'm going to find when I go to a book fair. If you would like me to do a follow-up video on book fairs, but this time tell you the strangest things I've ever found at a book fair, now is a good time to tell me in the comments and like and subscribe. Thank you.